But in regards to like millennials, is that kind of like your more general experience that there are a lot of lazy, entitled?
Me personally, no. I haven't. Maybe I'm not exposed enough to them because my kind of work is very, very unique. It's not structured in that way. I don't like work in an office and get experience like other people say, oh, geez, I see it all the time. I don't, because I'm kind of, to be cliche about the lone wolf, you just do what you do, and I don't have a structured workforce around me.
Sure.
But that seems to be the general sentiment that people share on social media. People, generation gaps. This seems to be the argument, that they got it easy and blah blah blah. But I think every generation has the same type of thing. Now it's always, it's so social media, it's the internet, always on the internet. But in my day, it was, they're always watching TV and cartoons. Why don't they go out and play? And before that, was probably always listening to the radio. And
there's a passed down complaint.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I see some of them, but I think this generation gap thing is always going to be an issue.
Sure.
And I think that issue is going to be more magnified as time goes by, because the rate at which we're evolving is exponential. So if we thought there was a gap between our parents and us,
sure,
me and my kids, my kids and their kids, good Lord, I'm kind of dreading yet half excited about what that holds, because it's just moving so fast.
And the other thing too is what I'm learning, because we just interviewed Vince Galanco from When in Manila.
Yeah.
I think the millennials, let me refer to them as the younger generation, because I know the millennials in LA and New York are like, don't call me that.
Yeah.
It becomes like a stigma. It's like when you call someone a bro now, it's a bad stigma.
Is it?
Yes, because for our time, us Gen Xers, a bro is like, it's my brother.
Yeah.
But now a bro is like a frat guy who just crushes beer cans on their forehead.
Oh, come on.
But I don't mind crushing beer cans in my forehead if I'm in my 20s. But still, I think it's difficult to find the stereotype in Asia because our work ethic is so much harder here.
Yeah, it is. Like, you look at Asia, but it's hard to sort of say Asia and then...
Or maybe Philippines for this.
Yeah, because like Asia, you look at Japan and Singapore, and then you look at the Philippines, totally different work ethic.
You're right. You're right.
So, I wouldn't lump them all into the same Asian thing, but I get exactly what you're saying. The work ethic, let's say, in Japan, I don't think the millennial thing will be, I don't think it's as pronounced over there, because they have such a strong work ethic.
Educational background.
Culture is so important. Koreans, I mean, like, you don't pull
South Koreans.
South Korea. What's the rating of your show? Can you say?
You can curse. You
okay,
because
I was going to say.
This is satellite radio and dash radio, so
right.
it's the most comfortable method from your end for speaking.
Perfect. Not that I swear much, but you can't pull that shit in Korea. Like, this entitled shit in South Korea, much more north.
Right.
You can't pull that shit. So I don't think it's as pronounced. I think the millennial thing has been sort of popularized by, well, as usual, Hollywood, America. They dictate pop culture, and they put a stigma around this sort of thing, and then a lot of it's a rub-on effect or pass-on effect. We could look at it and go, millennials are spoiled, whatever. But I got kids that are millennials, and they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
Some
of
things
it
frustrate me, but like I said, it's part of every generation.
I think generationally it becomes an issue of how the parents are. That's what it really comes down to.
That's huge.
But in regards to working at CNN, you're not going to find any lazy people there, because otherwise the stigma wouldn't be employable at CNN.
I guess so.
Or are there bad apples?
You're always going to get,
Sure.
I mean, many slip through the cracks. I'm very lucky with my team. I think they've all been established, and they all sort of appreciate the opportunity that they've got. So that doesn't seem to be an issue, but I do see with my own two eyes some real, wastes of space, oxygen thieves type of thing. And I think sooner or later that'll even out in the wash, because you have a country of 100 million people here, and there's going to be somebody hungry for your job. So you can't get too cocky and too comfortable. We do have labor laws that are pretty outdated here and archaic, but there are also many ways around it. I guess what I'm getting at is you can't just rest on your laurels and be comfortable that, oh, I have my rights, assistant rights, that's that. Because when there's a lot of people nipping at your heels wanting your job,
Sure.
you really have to start pulling your socks up, and you can't afford, because okay, technically we might not be able to get rid of you because of a labor law, but plenty of ways to make your life hard, man. In a third world country like this, or a developing nation, plenty of ways to make your life hard, and we'll give the opportunity to somebody else.
Alan and I were talking, the guy who's producing, for those of you listening, is a good friend of mine. He's producing these YouTube videos and podcasts for me while I'm here in the Philippines. We were talking about this, and I wanted to understand a comparison. In America, there's a saying, the entertainment pie is huge. So there's no room for, there shouldn't be any room for jealousy. You should be more congratulatory if someone is successful. Is that parallel here? Or do you find there's a lot more jealousy on the bigger stage of entertainment now that you're in with CNN?
Wow, that's a deep question.
Right?
It's almost like a Miss Universe question. I love it.
Well, there's no interpreters here, James. It's direct.
All right. Now, you made me think. I like that. I don't consider myself in a mainstream sort of celebrity circle. So that's not...
Sure.
I don't see that. So when you talk about that piece of the entertainment pie,
the Philippine pie,
the A-lister sort of, every other billboard is them. I don't know how that works. I can't comment on that. But on my side, where I am, obviously you're going to step on some toes. That's human nature. So it's not necessary. You're going to, when you come into a circle, you're going to... Some people will feel threatened. Some people will welcome you with open arms. I think that's human nature. So there is a bit of resistance. There is a little bit. I haven't felt it at CNN, I guess, because it's a different type of. Once again, I don't think anyone there considers themselves a celebrity. They consider themselves professionals. They consider themselves journalists. By the time you are invited to enter that door and put on a lapel mic and go in front of the camera, they pretty much are comfortable that you've been well scrutinized. You've made the cut.
It's not nouveau riche.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. That's it. It's not nouveau riche. I mean, I can see how that could be a problem with social media or even mainstream celebrities. And I'm now guessing because, like I said, I'm not part of the circle. But, when you have overnight sensations just pop up out of nowhere, you're always going to get people that go, hey, that's not fair. They're undeserving. I've worked harder. I've done this. But it's not about that, It's... The world works in strange ways, and your opportunity may come, it may not come. You may be deserving of it, you may be not deserving of it. It's just how the stars aligned at one particular time, and boom, you're there.
Right.
And so I can see how that could create a lot of jealousy, because people will feel, that they've invested more in it, or feel that they are more talented. Social media has opened this up a lot, because you really do get your garage superstars,
the microwave generation of stars. Right?
I mean, these are no longer the Justin Biebers. When we were growing up, that was, or when YouTube and stuff was new, we were looking at the Justin Biebers were the template of a YouTube sensation.
Sure.
Becoming a pop star. But now you don't need to be a pop star to be a YouTube sensation. We see all these internet vloggers, YouTubers and stuff. I mean, that's actually a career now. YouTuber.
Thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a thing, James.
Thing. Casey Neistat.
For your kids.
Yeah, I mean, I look at my kids and I go, yeah. I was having an appointment with the chaplain of the school yesterday, and we were talking about careers and stuff, and he was a really nice priest, but he was very traditional, and started saying, I think we should be worried about your son because he's not showing focus, blah 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 blah. And I said, you know what, Father, that doesn't really concern me so much anymore. I hope this doesn't make me sound like a bad parent or anything, but we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years' time. I'll tell you who didn't know. Kodak didn't know. Nokia didn't know.
Sure.
Blockbuster Video didn't know. So let's not pretend that we're really that confident that we know exactly what's best for Alex and Daniel and Sarah in 20 years' time. What's important to me is their growth as people, that they're good people. That will never go out of fashion. That doesn't have a use by date. That is future proof. Be a good person. Be understanding, kind, decent, law abiding, God fearing, if that's how you choose it. But I will love you just the same as long as you're a good person. That's important to me. Everything else, he may become a YouTuber and earn 1,000 times more than I ever did. He might be the leader of a company that we can't even fathom in our brains that would even exist. Did we know Uber was going to exist? No, but now it's a thing. Airbnb is a thing. So it doesn't. I'm not so hung up on the traditional. He has to do well at this. He has to do well at that. If he's not doing well here, we should worry. No, just be a balanced kid. Get it right. Learn the basics. Don't be dumb though.
Right.
Don't be dumb. That's not cool.
Right. I mean, back in our time, to date us even more, like it was considered bad mouthing, right? When you would riposte against your dad or your mom. But these kids are far more analytical. They want to know why. And how did you come up to the why? Is that what you're experiencing with your kids too?
Like I said, maybe I'm very lucky. My kids are not that. They're great like that. So we have open conversations. But I do see what you're getting at. Personally, I don't necessarily feel the extent of being challenged in that way. But yes, I see that they're like, you better have a good explanation for this because, and this has made me as a parent really think, you got to be very honest with your kids more than ever now. I mean, it's always been true, but now more than ever because Google will catch you out and you don't want to look like a fool. Sensitive topics like, for example, we used to scare our kids with old wives' tales and urban legends, folklore and stuff like that. Oh, she's gonna get pregnant if you hold her hand or if you kiss her, or
right. Or Jesus will just get mad at you.
Or Jesus will get mad at you and he'll not love you and you won't be allowed into heaven and all these things. And marijuana is a gateway drug that will get you into, next thing you know, you'll be raping children. One search on Google and you're that's it. You've blown your whole credibility.
Done.
Not just with that topic,
as
with
a parent.
everything. As a parent,
credence is out.
There you go. So now more than ever, you really have to sort of be, okay, how do I explain this in a way where they understand? Because the truth is, event is going to come out a lot sooner than later now. So I better be very, be supportive. It's this generation for me, there's just so much information out there. And that's posed also another problem, is now there's no shortage of the information, but what there's a shortage of is people to curate that information for them, people to help them decide on how to use that information. This is where good parenting, good mentoring, good just being a good influencer helps, is that you can, there's all this information out there. Now it's available to everyone, but it's overwhelming.
And context is lost.
And context is lost. You go to it's a very crude analogy, but if you went to a buffet and it had 1,000 dishes on it and you'd be like, wow, this is just awesome. But you can't fit 1,000 things. You can, not even if you wanted to try it all. So, you'd want to go to somebody to go, hey, try the lobster. Fish, you can probably get away with that, but you have to try these. This is good, that's good. So it's somebody curating the information for you. Now more than ever, that's become important.
Absolutely, because I feel like we understood context and what people are trying to imply, but now it's like a binary, literal nation of people, and even people like us are getting affected. You know how many people I see my age, our age group, they're posting their frustrations, where normally you really wouldn't want to do that if it's uber personal, But going back to the nouveau riche point of view in an entertainment pie, do you ever encounter like, oh, there's that turf, those are the ABS-CBN guys, those guys, or is it kind of like an understanding like, yo, what's going on? I see you're from the ABS-CBN.
Okay, no, I don't get that at all.
Good for you.
Yeah, no. Well, maybe, yeah. I don't feel it. I know that certain levels of where I'm of the industry definitely are far more competitive, watching each other with a stronger eye. But at my level, it's obviously you compete for the story. That's important.
Still there.
Sometimes you'll get scooped and stuff like that, and it's like, oh man, just makes you work harder at getting the story. How you interpret the story, how you present the story is very important. So we're competitive like that. But no, I don't look over and go, oh, there's the ABS and there's the GMA. No, it's like, let's go out and let's compete fairly. And so far, people have been pretty balanced and nice.
As far as for your professionalism, I had a glimpse during Alan's wedding.
Okay.
He told me behind the scenes that you just improvised the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. I don't work well with scripts at all. Definitely not, yeah.
So is that something that was developed, or is this something that, boom, you were born with?
Oh, man. I guess it was, I guess it's born with, and then, of course, you work on your craft.
Sure.
When I host something or I need to first, I will read through the script just to get an understanding, right? So it's the basics. Go through the script, see what they want to say. But then for me, it's more important to sit down with not just the organizer, but the person who actually put the event together. Because the organizer is just there to sort of execute the task. But then you actually talk to the person who's paying for it, who's saying,
sure.
Yeah, whether it's the wedding, whether it's the product launch or whatever. And I'll just pull them aside and say, what exactly are you trying to achieve here? What's the message? And then they'll start, and I'll say, well, just give me 3 maximum takeaways that you want from this. Maximum. Because you're fooling yourself if you think you're going to get 10 takeaways
sure.
or 15 takeaways. No, give me 3. And I'll work on trying to get that for you. That's my job as a host. So, however I understand it, and the best way I can put that into my own words to achieve that result, that's why I ad-lib. Is because I'm already, okay, let me understand that you want them to walk away with this, this, and this. How do I achieve that? Only I can, it's not a bragging thing, it's just I know myself. I know the best way I can communicate those 3 takeaways. So,
okay.
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
So it's like, there, tell me what you want to achieve out of this. Don't get greedy now and ask for 15 or 20 takeaways. Just give me 3 at the most. If you get 2, it's a job well done, okay? If you get 1, it's still pretty good. Because what the mistake most people make is they feel that they've spent already for this.
The buffet, to tie it back in.
Yeah, exactly. So they want to make sulit. Is your audience also partly, or to keep it in English?
It's keeping it in English. Sulit, it means
worth it.
It is well worth it, right?
Yeah. So they want to make most of it. They want to make it worth what they spent. So they say, I see this all the time. Okay, so we paid for the venue, we paid for this, so you now have to give a 30-minute speech. Oh my God, why? Because we paid for it already, No, people soon tune out. If you came up with, let's say you came up and stood on stage as the main man of that event, and then you just said one quote that they remembered, that's already sulit. That's already worth
sure.
your money. You don't have to sort of pad it with the 30 minutes just to be able to say, okay, I gotta meet the time frame, I gotta sort of tick that box, and no, just what are your objectives? What do you want people to remember?
It's almost like a case of concise will bring depth.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're trying to paint like, oh, I can do all this ancillary stuff, and
this is what I love about the internet and websites, etc. And when I moved over to websites for magazines, is you remove those shackles. You can say, sure. If I can say it in a 20-word caption, photo caption, that might be more powerful than a 1,000-word article that I slaved over and bled over, to get something out. Usually it's an 800-word, it's an editorial piece in the paper, 1.2 to 1.5 for a magazine feature. What if I could really just say the same thing in a photo caption? Do I still need to pad it? But before I used to have to, because they didn't publish one photo thing for an editorial.
Sure.
Like, dude, we're committed to 800. You got to give me your 800. All right, even if I said it in 10 and then the other 790 are just, yeah. So I appreciate the internet for allowing that. Brevity, being concise, and stuff like that.
To complement your point, one of the biggest award-winning ads in Art Center in Los Angeles, it was for Fat Burger. Mm-hmm. They just had the Fat Burger logo on the top right and a fat olive oil. For you young ones, olive oil is Popeye's mate, who's skinny as hell. But it just said the logo and then a fat olive oil. It was so successful. Do you think long form digestion of content would be prominent here in the Philippines? Because for right now, I feel like it's still go-to to the giants, right? ABC, ABS, CBN, CNN. And we spoke to Vince Galanco. He said, dude, if you're doing a podcast here, if you ain't Mo Twister, no one's going to listen to you.
Yeah, he's got a point.
But is that a way, because not that it's a bad thing, but culturally, when I say we, I'm also of Filipino and Chinese heritage for you who's listening. Filipinos from the Philippines, they just move towards a big brand. They're not open to like independent outlets for consumption.
Yes, I would agree with that, but I'd also say that people will eat what you feed them. So if you keep on, I think there's too many people focused on that, going, but this is what you have to be a Mo Twister, you have to be a Vice Ganda, you have to be a. Who's saying that? Nobody's developing the other side of the market.
Exactly.
It's lazy. It's very lazy. It's like, this is what sells and whatever. So you could liken it to sport. You're saying everyone is invested in basketball because that's what the Filipino loves. No, that's just what they know, because you haven't promoted anything else. Boxing and basketball and billiards are pretty much the 3 Bs that you can. The giant Bs, and that's it. Now, every now and again, somebody does well in ice skating, and you're like, oh, awesome. And then you have this overnight fan club for ice skating that pretty much dies down after about a month or so, but because they're following success of another Filipino. We don't have people developing those sports. So how can you expect them to get into it and appreciate it? And so that's going back to your point about do we just have to be a Mo Twister? Do we have to be shock jocks? Do we have to be Vice Ganda? I personally think no. But I've also found out the hard way that I've had trouble putting food on my family's table trying to achieve that. So when this break came with CNN, it was a great thing for me because it finally validated what I had believed in all along, which is that we are underestimating the Filipino audience. I really feel that. Now, I don't think there's probably enough right now to be able to get maybe the mainstream sponsors where you're getting laundry detergent money thrown at you and all that. That's for now is with the Vice Gandas and the mainstream. But Petron is a #1 sponsor of my show. That's the national oil company for whatever it's San Miguel beer. That is a great thing for me because that tells me that these are big mainstream brands saying, you know what, we believe in what you're doing. So here's a little bit of money to be able to do what you do and keep doing it. Just keep doing it. That, for me, is the greatest compliment, and it's a breakthrough because it's showing that we can be a little bit intelligent. We don't have to go down the route of just feeding them the MSG and the empty calories all the time. You know, we can give them something substantial in small doses because right now, I mean, I still feel it on my own website, my own Facebook page. You know, I will bleed and I will write a well thought out post of about 300-400 words sometimes.
Urban planning, traffic, whatever.
Yeah. And I'll bleed and I'll research and I'll talk to people and whatever, and I'll put it in a nice, concise way and I'll wrap it up in 500, 600, 700, 800 words, depending. And I put it on the website and maybe I'll get 500, 600 likes, and you're like, not for anything, not that I'm trying to judge it all by that, but let's be realistic. You put a meme of some freaking cop riding around without a helmet on his motorcycle on the main road, and you're going to get 20,000.
Boom.
Yeah, boom.
Right.
And so the temptation is always to, that's the path of least resistance. That's where the money's being made. So I'll go down that. But no, I keep reminding myself, no, you have always said to develop this market. You've always said that people are underestimating the intelligence of Philippine people. Keep doing it. So it's almost sometimes it feels as if you're okay. Well, you're investing in it. You're investing.
Sure.
But I have faith, man. I have faith. It on a personal level, it did take me this far, and that shows to me that it's validation.
Like in Instagram, I get tempted of just posting tits and puppies.
There you go.
Just to get more likes for the brand, right?
Exactly.
But do you feel okay? I'll make a statement, then you react to it.
Sure.
CNN Philippines could be the best gateway to Vice media. Mm-hmm. Would you say, is that correct? What's your reaction to that? Because Vice is, it's very, if not pseudo, intellectual. And I love Vice Media. You know, it's like this type of conversation. This is platform about SiriusXM and Vice, where you get to know a talent super in depth before you even go into biographical stuff.
It's a gateway, did you say?
Do you think so?
I think we're still. I think we do it better than most without blowing our own trumpet. But if I'm really honest with you, I think we're still far from that here.
Okay.
We're still shackled with. Like, I can't talk to my guests in the same way that I talk to them if I had a podcast.
Sure.
So I'm actually, you know, a part of me wants to bring Alan, we keep referring to behind the camera here.
Sure.
He's over there, by the way.
Yeah, he's over there. If you're listening, he's over there.
We had a podcast for a long time.
Sure.
We had a radio show and a podcast, and I really miss that.
You're going over all my questions, by the way, organically. You're just setting me up so beautifully. Good.
So yeah, I miss that, because there we could really be ourselves. And it's not about the swearing or anything. It's about, you know, you have sort of formats that we're still kind of stuck in on mainstream television. We still are regulated by the KBP and all these other, you know, regulatory boards. So you can't really be. Then there's a culture that needs to be broken there. But I want to be able to turn around to my guests and say, with due respect, sir, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, without actually offending them. Yeah, just saying, sir, with respect, that fact is bullshit. Yeah, call it. You can't really do that yet, but if you're really searching for an answer and you want to pin me down to an answer, we're the closest thing I think you can get to it. But I think we're well away from there yet.
Are you hopeful?
I'm hopeful.
Thank God.
You know, I'm so glad you're bringing this up. You really didn't tell me anything about what the interview was going to be about.
Why should I? I'm selfish.
And so I'm glad this is one of your questions, because it's something that I've been feeling more and more recently. There's such it's so refreshing now to sort of capture or witness honesty. And this whole social media filtering and all that has created quite I won't say generation, because I hate to generalize, you know, but it has created a culture of some sort.
Sure.
Whether you're part of that culture or not, admit that it exists, of this curated image, this filtered image of yourself that you're projecting out there. And as we touched on before, you send out the really cheap stuff. You throw out the MSG and the sugar and the empty calories, and people go, and then but it's all artificial. There's nothing substantial
nothing
there.
Nothing organic,
but nothing really substantial. So you see more and more people faking it. They're just faking it. They're saying, what do I think they want to hear? How does I think this should come out? How do I want to be perceived? And then you get people like one of the guys I really admire on air, Joe Rogan. I don't know if you catch his podcast. You do?
I eat that podcast day and night, bro.
There you go. You see, now for me, that is somebody I was like, wow.
Iconic.
Yeah, because, you know, and what does he really do if he doesn't just be honest? He's one of the most honest broadcasters out there. I don't know even if that's a term now, broadcaster, because of what he does. But
sure.
Whatever it is, I love watching it. And I notice my son watches it a lot. He's 17, be 18 this year. I notice him watching it a lot. I mean, almost every day I can hear that podcast going on. And I've asked him, and, you know, what is it about? I'm curious. You know, I have my own answer, but I want to know from him. And I think the answer is basically what people find attractive. The magnetism there is the honesty. It's refreshing.
Sure.
It's real. I love.
But you can feel it though if they're being honest. Or sometimes I hear a lot of podcasters and they're trying to be like sanctimonious at the same time. But Joe isn't.
No, he isn't.
He's just smart.
He's smart and he's honest. He says it as this. He doesn't also. You see, you have the other extreme, which is that shock jock thing, where I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell everyone to fuck off right now. No, but you just know that was bait too.
Sure.
You know, he swears appropriately when it counts only. He has a great analytical mind.
Super mind.
Yeah, he's exposed to a lot, and he's obsessive. He obsesses about everything. So. And to see this free character, I'm going to get a little deep here, so ride with me for a while. For me, when I watch him, I'm like, this is, you get drawn into it because it's so attractive is the wrong word because it sounds a bit, but you're attracted to this. God, this guy's such a free spirit. I mean, he doesn't seem to have any issue saying he smokes marijuana, has taken this, like there's nothing he can't say. I mean, that is like you look at it and go, wow, I wish I could be that, because in my world, and I'm not talking about me personally, I'm talking about people out there who watch, go, God, I'm told what to say, how to say it. I'm scared that if I wear this or do that, I'm going to be judged like this. This is a complete opposite of that. He represents everything that, it's that freedom.
Sure.
Have you ever watched Black Mirror?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay.
On Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix.
Right?
It's an all. There's one particular one. It deals with this like parallel universe of. I'm just starting to watch it, but so the episodes, the messages are very strong and relevant to today, but they're set like in a parallel type of universe or the future. And there's one episode there where you walk around, everyone rates each other. So you, with your phone, like every interaction you have, like similar to how you do it with your Uber driver, but every interaction.
Sure.
So like I buy something at the grocery store, you serve me, and I go, ching. And then, you're in a party and this guy made you laugh and you give him 5 stars. And,
boom.
yeah, and then how we all get addicted to this, and this is the metric now of how our self-worth. And it's fascinating. If you get a chance to watch that episode, it shows you how we become enslaved to this, and we're protecting that number, that rating. And then eventually it ends, I don't want to give away the ending, but that freedom that they get in the ending where they just be able to say what they want. That's what I think people like Joe Rogan do, is they give you this, if you're going to be aspirational about something, I want to achieve that level of
Sure.
not giving a fuck.
Right.
To put it that way.
It's almost like self-fluency.
Yeah.
Right. You're fluent about yourself. You're aware about yourself. So you don't give 2, 3, 4 fucks about what anyone says.
Yeah.
Like, to compliment and ride on your point, it's this freedom that's brought us back this, I guess, in American terms, the third golden age of TV. Mm-hmm. Look at what HBO and Netflix is doing.
Yeah.
They're not bound. Just be creative. Make sure you're technically great. We'll pick it up. We'll pay you. And then we'll give you the formatics after we put it out.
Yeah.
Stand-up comedians, I feel like, have been affected because of this PC world. And now there's other freedoms of being honest now that's coming out. Is that something that could be reached out here in the Philippines specifically? Like Mo is one example, right? But the sample size of one, it's
Mo.
It's bad.
Mo's hook, and I say this with respect because I've been on his show a couple of times, and I while we may disagree on many things, I admire how he's able to, he's got a skill, he's got a real talent in what he does. But when you're selling sex is an easy sell. No disrespect, once again,
right.
to him. He sells it better than anyone else I know.
And for the listening audience, Mo Twister is, would you say, the parallel to Howard Stern of Filipino radio?
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely the number. Yeah, definitely. That's a good parallel.
Sorry to cut you off.
No. That's
for
cool.
the listening audience.
I'm just measuring my words because I really do mean it. I don't want to devalue what Mo does, even though it's something I wouldn't do.
Dude.
I wouldn't do
Respect.
it. But yeah, you gotta respect somebody who does something well, and I'm not gonna get into the personal life and all that. That's a whole different argument. I'm just looking at him professionally, what he does as a craft. He's able to draw in the listeners. It is selling sex, so it is an easy sell, but he does inject a certain kind of intelligence or into it as well. So it is entertaining. You can sit through an hour and 2 hour podcast and actually go through the whole thing.
Sure.
Now, yes, he's a small sampling size because when you're selling sex, you're going to get a bigger audience, whatever. So are we ready for his brand or that type of honesty that you're talking about on the mainstream level when we're not talking about subjects as easy to sell as sex? If we're talking about cars and stuff and stuff that's not as popular, can we do the same thing? To a certain degree, that's what I feel I'm doing. To a certain degree, I think I tackle
niche culture.
Yes, and I tackle it with the level of as much honesty as I can give. Just saying it as it is. I don't play the politically correct game, but I'm also not a shock jock. I'm not just gonna, if you go to my Facebook page, I've never sworn there. I don't. It's not something I do. My kids go to my page, and I'm careful about that. Don't judge other people who do. I'm just saying that's not my style.
Sure.
But I try to bring in a level of honesty where everyone likes to talk in circles about a particular problem. Just go straight to it and say, this is it. We are so busy, every time they come up with a new law trying to regulate cars and car ownership and all that. It's like, dude, regulate drivers before the cars. There's a reason why they call them basics. Let's follow the basics first. Let's tackle discipline. Let's tackle discipline, pretty much number one. And only once we've exhausted the basics do you start going after a little bit more draconian measures like Singapore and overtaxing the cars, etc. But I think I'm going off tangent now. I don't want to lead it too
man.
far.
This is, dude, I love conversations that go left.
Okay, well, that's
let's go left, brother.
That's how I apply the honesty that I think you're bringing up here, is that I'm not even picking on a person or a politician, etc. I'm not saying that, I'm not isolating. I'm just saying, listen, if this is stupid, it's stupid. Okay, I'm going to try and I'm going to say it as politely as I can, but it's going to be as straight as I can too. I'm not going to sugarcoat it too much. This is idiotic. Don't do this, do this. And then people tend to be, wow, that made sense. And that we seem to have a shortage of. As I say, common sense is not so common anymore. So when you're saying it, boom, it resonates with people.
Sure.
And people go, well, that works. What I can't tell you is what demographic. If there's a demographic that don't get it and there's a demographic that cling to it, I don't know. I look at my own Facebook data because that's the only way I can get the best demographic information I can. And it seems to be like a 65, 68% male between 25 to 40 or 38, something like that.
Eyeball test.
Yeah, so those are these the ones that appreciate that honesty, and anyone younger than that are like, this is just too boring. He didn't capture my attention the first 1.4 seconds. I'm out of here. I don't know. I can't give any proof, but by my experience, by eyeball test and experience, fruitional experience, it's the era where you don't have to give a shit anymore. I mean, obviously you're with a big brand like CNN, so there is a programmatic protocol, right? But at this point, the internet highway is so wide. There's an audience for anything. And people's minds are so wide now, they're open to taking things in. That I think relates to your question about the entertainment pie. There is so much more now. So
look at you tying it in.
Carve a niche. Find your own niche, carve it. Don't look for a space. Create a space for yourself. That's when I started this thing, there was no such thing. There was no name for what I did. What are you, a motoring influencer? Are you a motoring personality? What are you? I mean, people always ask, what are you? Actually, even before the CNN, it was harder to actually say what I was, because now I can just say I'm a broadcaster, I'm a television host. People get that. But really, that's recent. That's not who really I am. It's what I become, in a way.
Sure.
But I created a space for myself. I said, this is... And I didn't even mean to. It just happened. And then as it started to happen, I started believing more and more in what I did. And I started becoming more confident with my statements and stuff like that. And through about 15 years of doing it, it paid off. So when somebody turns around and says, wow, that's, you're an overnight success. I said, thanks. It only took me 15 years.
Right. A 15-year overnight success. I actually ran into you at Loudbox. The voiceover agency. I used to do voiceover work, thanks to Alan, as we keep referring to him in third person. He told me about Hit Productions. Yeah. So I was doing voice work for them for like about 8.5 months, and we were in the same room. That's probably the better message, at Loudbox. How did you get into voiceover work?
Alan.
Again.
Yeah, he's the source of all of this.
Again.
Basically, we were in radio together, and that's where my first job here in the Philippines was on radio. And it's a natural racket because they don't pay for radio. They pay shit here.
Right.
I was on $8,000 a month when I first started. That's pesos for people who are watching. That's about less than $200 a month. 6 days a week, should I say. 6 days a week. I got eventually bumped up to like 12. I shouldn't have said that, because I think Alan was on 11. He's laughing. So now he's hurt. Because I was the favorite in the station.
Is this RT?
No, it's RJ.
RJ.
We're just one letter short, but it's a very important letter. So, yeah, I was... it didn't pay. So you have to do your hosting rackets, you have to do your voicing. That's how I got into it. Alan was already into it at that time. He was doing it because he was in radio longer. So yeah, I remember him like setting one or two up, or he couldn't do one. He recommended us, and that's how it works in the industry. It's another thing that didn't pay well. I mean, actually, the pay wasn't too bad for the time that you went into a voice recording studio. It's the time they took the pay.
I got paid like 4.5 years later.
Yeah. I
did a Cornetto ad, I did a smart audio ad, and I did a Fitness First ad.
Yeah.
4.5 years.
4.5 years. How is that even possible? It's a big. I really bothers me, because when I was starting out, and that was really a big main part of my income, I was saying, this is criminal what they're doing. It's pure exploitation.
Sure, because they get paid ASAP.
Even if they don't, why is that my problem?
That's true.
Why? So I can't tell my staff at home or my helper at home, well, I didn't get paid, so you don't get paid. Look, she did the work at home. She worked for the last month, and she expects to be paid for that.
But I don't know. I almost feel like it's an added star and stripe and like purple heart of radioisms when you do voiceover. It's like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah, it's. Look, I liked it. I enjoyed doing it. I just, looking back now, especially, well, I just think it's totally wrong how their payment structure.
Agreed.
And they really should. That's no. They cannot. It's pure exploitation. There's no other word for it. And the other day, I also was ready to go public with it because I was so upset. And I mean, it wasn't about how much a talent fee was. I think the talent fee eventually ended up being $50. That's how. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, exactly. Like 2,000 something pesos, and that took over like 2 years to pay. And it was just the way that they were dealing with it. I was ready to expose them. I did write one blind item on Facebook because, I knew that would cause a big ruckus if I named the place.
Sure.
And I thought, I know not every single person in that place is guilty, so I didn't want to
burn that bridge.
Yeah, it was a tough one, but I was conflicted because I was like. And then another thing, the other reason I didn't name the place is, who are we fooling? They're practically all the same. I mean, I don't think I've encountered, there's probably one out of, or two at the most, that were a bit better at it. But it was an industry practice. So when I brought it out as a blind item, said, 2 years to pay, blah, blah, blah. The comments there were like thousands of comments. And I'm not really in that circle anymore. So to get those same, to get into that, people were reacting. They were saying, yeah, this is bullshit. It needs to be changed, etc.
Now, so from going to radio / voiceover, you ended up writing for C Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Does your mind change, like the way, like some guitarists, they say, dude, on a keyboard, polyrhythmically and melody-wise, I'm a completely different person when I go from this to this.
Yeah.
But with writing, did you find it to be easier, or was it?
No, I found it to be harder because I'm more comfortable with speaking. Yeah. So radio, TV definitely are mediums that I feel more comfortable with. The writing, I actually feel I can be a bit even clearer in writing, but it just takes me a hell of a lot longer to do. So that's the part why I say it's harder. I really bleed to write an article. But once it's finished, I'm usually very happy with it. I'm usually actually much happier than had I said it on radio or something, because I've measured the words more carefully. I've structured it, spent some time polishing it. It's just the time that it takes to do it. So yes, harder, more rewarding in some ways, because you're swapping instant feedback for something a little bit longer term. Especially back then in the year 2000, when there was really internet penetration was practically nothing and social media didn't exist at all. You had a longer shelf life. There was a premium placed on print. So when people looked at it, they were like, if you were featuring somebody in print, they were like, oh, this is forever. Radio, that's it. You hear it, it's exciting. You're in the car, oh my God, they mentioned my name, oh my God, and then it's dead. Unless you keep going back and back and you build up a name there. Whereas in magazine, 10 years later, I'm still opening up articles in the barbershop, bump into my articles there. and I cringe when I read them.
I find myself overthinking more because there's the edit ability where with talking behind a microphone, it's like you already said it, so it's done. And then with like overthinking, it's like, oh, let me recorrect that. And then I found myself like going right and I'm not even putting out my true message already because I was editing so much.
Well, that can happen a lot. So there's also that, yes, rawness that comes from live broadcasting or even tape, because unless you really are producing it and you're going to say things that sometimes, so you're a little sharper in that way. You're more careful. Like now I'm having to think about what I say as I say it. I can't go back. It's stuck there. So I maybe tread a little more cautiously. Maybe that's the downside, is you tread a touch more cautiously in this than you would in print, because I can not go back.
Can you do another 15?
I can do as long as you're...
Let's do it, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Well appreciated, by the way.
No problem. I'm enjoying it.
Cool. I have the magazine at home where you wrote. You know where I'm going.
Okay.
Where you wrote to your dad.
Okay. Yeah.
Were you satisfied? Were you nervous when you put out? And if you could please set up to the audience what you put on that article that you wrote to your father.
Which one was it? Because I wrote.
You had 3, right?
Yeah, about 3, right? By memory, yeah, 2 or 3.
Right.
One was very personal. A couple were very, very personal.
The first one.
Do you remember roughly what it's about? And something that triggered my memory, was it me meeting him for the first time?
No, it wasn't that.
Okay.
It wasn't about meeting him.
Was it him?
It was more about like why the presence. Wasn't there?
Was it something to do with when he got diagnosed with cancer and he chased...
No, it wasn't that. God, I'm being terrible with my research.
No, that's all right. Anyway, I think I can still get to the question, or the answer to the question.
It had nothing to do with the death.
Okay. The question was, did I feel...
After putting out the first article, was it more like insatiating, like an appetite? Was it... I mean, what was the emotion after reading it being put out?
Okay. I remember the first article that I published, and I was really nervous doing it, really nervous, because I felt that would this be seen as being presumptuous? Am I expecting the reader to really care about me and my relationship? This is uncharted waters now. People have come and subscribed or paid to buy a car magazine and read about cars. And when an author has put himself out there and tells a story so personal about his dad, that can backfire big time. So yes, I was very nervous before it came out. When it came out, I was overwhelmed by the response. So it really made up for it, and it gave me a huge sigh of relief. I didn't hear one bad thing. Maybe there was, but I never heard it. And then the amazing thing about that is up until, I think it's about 2 weeks ago, and I wrote that article, first one in 2004. So that's 13 years later. 2 weeks ago, I got a message about that article. I still get messages about it because people, I guess especially back then, maybe in magazines and Philippine terms, that level of honesty was not really very common.
Well, you're soulfully naked.
Yeah, I was.
You're soulfully naked, and
I touched on a topic that I think almost every single parent and child goes through. So somehow it really sunk in and it touched people. So the most amazing reactions I got to that was people who said, because I read your article, I contacted my dad, we patched up, we did this, we did that. And my hairs are standing now. I don't know if you can see the goosebumps.
I see it,
but
totally.
Yeah, no, that's the power of media. That's the power of print. Actually, I wouldn't even say media. It's a power of a voice if you use it properly.
Sure.
So it was very significant for me. It was a pivotal point, actually.
Yeah, and I feel like it's not that you can turn the page. It's like you can close a book and rewrite a new one after that.
No.
Really?
It's not that I could close the book on...
Or at least there's a sense of closure, right? And moving on. Because I'm an illegitimate child. This is why I'm bringing it up to you. I just met my Chinese side like 5 years ago, and I'm 41.
Wow, that would have been.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So so in a parallel universe, I got a hold of that article like 7 years later. So probably 2008, 2009, maybe. So for me, it was just like, oh fuck, because with Philippine culture, or no, let's use Joy Luck Club as an example. With Eastern culture, it's like, let's mask it. Let's be fucking passive aggressive.
Yeah.
And thank God something like that. And especially now people can look back and go, holy shit, he put that out there and was soulfully naked before it was cool to be self-sanctimonious. Look at me. Oh, I'm a YouTube guy. Oh, let me selfie myself with this Banawe crab that's so delicious. Who gives a shit? But now, has that positively or neutrally affected your parenting style?
Yes, and it also had quite a big impact on my relationship at the time with my mom. She was very upset by that because
I can imagine.
So yeah, it was, when you do something like, there's a lot of ripple effects, and it did affect her in a way that I felt really bad about. But as much as she's my mom and I'd do anything for her, if I was presented with the same set of options again, I would still go down the same route. Because
as you should.
Yeah, it was a tough thing, and I don't wish this for any child to have to do this, but when presented with this, these are defining moments. So I felt strongly about what I wrote about my dad. And for those who are still confused about it, because we don't have the article here, but it was, soulfully naked, as you said. But it was about closing a book and a chapter and healing. We're taught forgiveness. I don't know if you subscribe to the Catholic religion or what religion, but
I practice loosely.
But generally, any religion teaches you forgiveness and tolerance, and it's the same thing, right? If you study it properly. So what I'm getting at is my mom would teach us forgiveness, understanding, patience, this, that, all these virtues and values, and yet when I extended it to my father, it's like, no, not him. He's not deserving.
That's the exception.
Yeah, and you're like, but wait. Isn't that the one who deserves it more? The one who's undeserving? Very easy to forgive somebody that you're not really mad at.
Sure.
You can forgive me for being late today.
You're not late. Oh my God, that's another episode in its own, that
but
fiasco.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's not a big deal. It's like, but to forgive somebody that you feel truly doesn't deserve it, that takes guts. But that was why it was so important to me, because I got 3 kids. I'm now trying to teach them a certain thing, and I'm now trying to teach them forgiveness is being good, kind to each other, all the normal virtues and values that I grew up with. And then they see me with their own 2 eyes disowning my dad, saying, but what about Lola Malcolm?
The practice.
Right? He's a dick. Don't worry about him.
Right.
What does that do to a child's mind? It's like, huh? And then when I screw up, we live in a disposable society anyway. Fuck that.
Right.
I can't. That didn't sit right with me. And I talked to my mom about this, and I said, this is not This is going to be very painful for me to say, and I hope you don't take it the wrong way. But this is not about you. This is about something bigger, something between me and a father and son, and something I need to do. Please don't take it personally. It's just not to do with you. Sorry. But to her, it was something that, and I feel very bad about that, but,
You know what? I'm probably the most brutal black sheep out of my family. Mm-hmm. And I tell people sometimes, like exactly what you said, it's not about you. Yeah. And you know what? That you part that you're worried about, it's because you're worried about what other people are thinking.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And this is now what bugs me about a lot of things, like, same-sex marriage and legalization of marijuana and these very RH bill. It's not about you. Does it affect you? Does it really affect you?
Why are you crying?
And then, here we're so very backwards. So you put out a stance like that. And then I try not to be too controversial on my page. Unless it's motoring. Motoring, it's free for all. But
sure.
Politics and stuff, I kind of stay away from. But I've had to take public stances already on things because, it got to be a heated national topic. And I remember when there was a same-sex marriage thing, I was like, finally, when I broke my silence, I said, the greatest stance you can take against, if you're against same-sex marriage, the greatest stance you can take is not marry a gay guy. Well, fucking point taken, man. You that'll learn him.
Take innies, not outies.
But what's that guy doing to you? How does this impact your life?
Totally.
Why are you trying to restrict or marginalize a sect? It's got nothing to do with you.
Totally.
So it's the same. And then here people are like, you know, they're still a bit backward than that. And no, that's got to change. You just, if they're not harming anyone, you got no right to limit their rights and stuff like that.
I'm gonna flip it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you like your Tito James. Tito James, why are there so many trannies at Green Hills trying to sell me fake rubber shoes? Why is it in Southeast Asia that there's so many Thai trannies and Filipino ladyboys? Let's just theorize here, because I have my own theory, but
okay, it's not my core competence or area of expertise.
Neither is it mine.
Right, well,
but I love going to the Changuez and buying cheap knockoff T-shirts.
I'm not entirely sure the answer to that, because we very strangely, very strangely condemn homosexuality in this country.
Yes.
But we celebrate the bading. We celebrate the, is that the right word? The
flamboyancy.
Flamboyant fag. I'm not trying to be derogatory here.
No. You're just
these are
using
the
context.
terms. The parlor gay, I think, is probably. Can
I borrow that?
Yeah, the parlor gay?
Parlor gay?
Yeah, sure, it's not mine.
I don't have to pay you royalties?
No, I don't own it.
Parlor gay, okay, cool.
The parlor gay. So we, on one hand, are very strong about condemning them in the church and this and society, same-sex marriage, oh my God. But every sitcom, every freaking teleserie, every game show, every noontime show has to have the token parlor gay.
Sure.
Once again, I'm not saying that, they shouldn't, whatever. I don't care if that parlor gay doesn't affect my life in any way, shape, or form. But now that you ask the question, I don't understand why we celebrate that and we condemn the act of homosexuality.
Sure.
You can't live in a hypocritical world that's contradicting to each other.
Correct.
So we do see in Green Hills and everywhere else, you go to these places where they'll sell you your DVDs and your fake rubber shoes and stuff like that. In Thailand, it's the same thing. And because society's created this
stigma,
this place for them that says, they love having them. The girls love making chica
the
with them.
Entertainment value.
Yeah. So, hey, to each his own. I'm not saying that that's a problem with me. If they respect my sexuality, who I am, etc., I'll respect who you are. I just don't get how we can live and condemn the tradition, the practice, but then
the sensual and sexual aspect you don't like, but it's almost like they're like your jester, your media jester.
Maybe that's where we feel more comfortable with them, is we put them in a box and say, yeah, you're the jester. Maybe that's the best way to describe it.
I also have a theory, and you let me know.
Yeah,
I think it's based out of oppression. Because you look at the Japanese.
You think there's a lot of closet?
Oh my God! You look at the Japanese and hentai. You have octopus that finger bangs like chicks in their cartoons. That is so. It's amusing and bugged out with the Japanese, but with the Filipinos, it feels like the flamboyancy is directed to entertainment-centric culture. It's like the way they sell something. It's so like roll out the red carpet and throw roses at Caesar. So you can buy this iPhone 4S for only 16,000 pesos.
Wow.
I think it's like oppression. It is derived of, it's almost like the hemisphere, the continental thing. For some reason, you guys who are slanted-eyed are going to be oppressed. Where someone like South America, or even, I don't know, maybe in Africa, where women roam in certain tribes with their chest hanging out, where it's a little bit of freedom. Or is that invalid on my theory? Feel free to shoot me down.
No. I was with you there for the whole oppressed thing. That made sense to me because, but I like how you put it, where they seem to be more comfortable boxing them into this role of jester. That hit a chord with me, because that seems to be like they're uncomfortable with this homosexuality thing. Maybe they are oppressed because many of them want to try it out for themselves. As Joe Rogan once famously says, because you secretly think dick is delicious, you know, something along those lines. He had a classic line like that. So you're oppressed, so the only way where you can deal with that is by putting them into this, boxing them into this sector where they're jester and we can make fun of them and etc. And then the parlor gays and all that. And that's how it fits in my world. That made the most sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay, this is the last topic, I swear.
We can go for we got the room for I don't know how long.
For sure.
So
it's just our producer, homie / friend over here needs to get to work too.
Okay.
The last thing I wanted to touch on is what your expertise is, and I didn't want it to start off with that. It's so stereotypical.
Yeah. Okay.
But the most moving thing I've seen, maybe it was like a couple of days ago, where there's a traffic enforcer directing traffic. And then a goddamn fucking Jeep hits him, knocks him on his ass like 10 to 13 feet.
Yeah, God, yeah, I remember that very clearly.
And that's, we're laughing at it because it's grand. It's so amazing we're laughing at it, right?
Day, yeah, exactly. The mere fact that we even, broad daylight, he's dressed in bright yellow, he's a traffic officer. And he was just, how the fuck did that happen? Like
3 lanes to the left.
Yeah.
Or to the right. Stage left. Right. Sorry.
Yeah. What was the question behind it?
There isn't a question really. But
you're just more of a reaction.
I'm just really reacting to it.
Okay. Well. That shit happens a lot here. I never get. If I had time to check all my inbox, and I already have people that actually check my inbox already to help me, and we still can't get through all of them. You should see the videos out there and the pictures. You can't make this shit up, you know? It's just, this is why I keep pushing for the mandatory use of dash cams. This is why I'm really, really advocating this, is to influence behavior. I think we've lost control. I think the animals have taken over the zoo. And there's only one way. There's still one currency that's pretty valuable to Pinoys, and that's shame. We still don't like this being put in a spot and said, we hate that. So use it as a weapon. It's about time. We've tried everything else. They don't seem to react. So public shaming seems to be of some value right now. I hate to have to use it, but whatever it takes, you know? It's time to bring out the big guns. And then if we have dash, right now, there's a certain element of society, there's a certain sector of society that tell me, and this makes it for me all worth my while when I sometimes pull my hair out and think, this is not worth it, what am I doing? I tell people come up to me and they say, you know what? The other day I was, I was really in a hurry and I was going to counterflow. For those who don't understand what counterflow, it's exactly that. You're going against the flow of traffic. This happened. This is so common here. We have our own word for it. And they said they were about to do it, go in the opposite lane just to break traffic. And then they stopped and they said, oh shit, I don't want to end up on your page. That's a real compliment to me, because it made them stop and think. They were about to do something really, really stupid, and they said, the first thing that went through their heads, shit, I don't want to end up on James's page and be shamed and my video coming out. And they stopped. Now, we could have more people like that if dash cams are mandatory, because right now those are people going, what are the chances that there's going to be a dash cam on here?
Right.
And they take the risk, because for them, they weigh out risk versus reward, and the reward is still greater because the idiot traffic enforcer at the end allows him through, doesn't penalize him for what he did, lets him through, he just cut the whole line, fuck it, doesn't matter. But if risk versus reward, no, it's not that if I will come out tonight on Facebook or YouTube.
Sure.
I will. Just like in an airport. You can't do stupid shit in an airport. You can't do stupid shit in a bank or in a casino, because you are 100% sure you got CCTV on you. 100%.
I lied, Alan. One more question, please, because it's tied into it, okay? Aside from bridging the generational gap, my radio show is about bridging continental gap. So this is my theory again about shame.
Okay.
So there's one cartoon in America. When you're younger, if let's say you're in the locker room, if cameras show up, you cover your genitals, right? Because you're in the locker room.
Yeah.
But as you get older, you cover up your face instead of the genitals. The Filipino shame, is that shame because, oops, I got caught? Or is it, oops, I got caught and I care about what the people think?
Yeah, I care the latter, definitely. Because we spend too much time manufacturing our images here, for way too much time. And so when you unmask somebody, I think it's more pronounced here, more amplified here, because we spend more time with the charade. I mean, just look around, and I love my country, okay?
Sure.
I don't think there's any question out there if there's how much I love my country, because I have a choice where to live. I can live in any other country practically. It's actually easier. But I choose to live here because I still believe in it. I love it. And it's home. But the hypocrisy is incredible. I mean, we're here with the Catholic Church and all their values about this and that about fidelity and all this. We have one of the highest rates of extramarital affairs,
sure.
The highest rate of second families, of teenage pregnancies, of corruption and all that. So really, but these are the same people that go to church on every day and twice on Sundays and wear the whole headdress thing and the whole preachy. So yes, it is about what people think. This is why we, more than many other countries, our facades are very, very defined here, very pronounced. It's very cultural.
I'm going to close with this. For the Filipino people and Filipino Americans, you know what? This is actually quite common, I feel, globally. You know, people are just insecure. And I feel like like what we're doing right now, which I appreciate what you've done, James, it's addressing it and showing it and posting it out to the world. James Deakin.
Well, I want to thank you because I have been wanting to come on something like this and for a long time.
It'll be on satellite radio and Dash Radio if that's cool.
I just want to, you know, I wish more people would start leaning towards this format and just speaking openly. You know, people are actually more genuine now, genuinely interested in genuine people. Yeah,
and honestly, if ever you have an itch to talk, hit me up. I'll be in the Philippines for a couple of more months.
All right.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.